something that I am very interested in being known is a cultural influence in both ways, as something present here and as something that has always existed. Yes, it is important to know that just being here means that we observe and emulate customs to understand them better, and because we like many of them. The idea that the Earth is alone in the universe and that it is not known whether or not there is life outside is a merely human concept, controlled by the Cabal and therefore by the Federation. The concept of being isolated and that it is impossible to traverse long distances is also one that belongs only to the people on Earth, but only the people, because governments and the members of the Cabal, the elites, know it very well.
Yes. And why so much interest in denying life outside of Earth?
It is because the Federation cares for the interests, as they say, of the population on Earth, but from the perspective that they are all ETs from countless different races, all living a human experience as humans. Suffering and injustices are part of what they have established as characteristics of human beings by the experience. So the supervising controllers of the terrestrial matrix will even remove or revoke fundamental rights of those who are living on Earth, such as the free will, as observed from the inhabitants' view, in order to perpetuate the simulation of life on Earth and its characteristics, that, according to the same controllers' federation, was fully agreed upon by each of the souls before entering. So, according to them, they're only protecting their interests as they themselves requested. The difference between ETs and humans, where one ends and the other begins, is not clear. There is no defined barrier, as many ufologists believe. They only see clearly non-human races as extraterrestrials, and everything that has human appearance as terrestrial, with limited and dogmatic thought. The reality is very different. Everything is fuzzy and blurry, without clear boundaries, and extremely complicated dynamic between species, even more so because of the various ways in which beings of other races come to Earth to experience life as human beings. I speak here of specific races without specifying or considering that in the end all souls are universal and none of them come from a particular place, being that they're all the source and all are the same soul. And what differentiates one from the others is just the level or range of memory that they have during some observable point of their existence, called sometimes, not always, an incarnation. Because additionally, multiple extraterrestrial races of the very well-defined and generally more human appearance enter Earth through the technological means, by total immersion simulation, to experience what it is like to be a human being there. To this, we can add step-downs who come down physically, since some races are confused with a human and at first glance, they are indistinguishable.
And you, how do you know all this? How have you learned it?
Because I'm on the other side of what I am describing, and I see it every day. It's my world, and I know how it's done. I know people who are down there right now playing being human, not being human. I know people in immersions as well. The concept that Earth is being visited by ETs is also relatively new, because in itself, it has always been visited by non-terrestrial entities, and the presence of spaceships in the skies of the world has been there through thousands of years, and it is nothing new. They are mostly unmanned drone ships or probes of the Federation and allied races that monitor the proper functioning of the system, but have the main directive not to intervene or as little as possible. While it is common for many races to intervene or even speak directly to people or entire populations on Earth, this is due to research projects or the observation of human reactions, and it is generally limited to isolated, mostly indigenous populations. Earth is a planet that is super controlled by the Federation with an artificial isolation, with a purpose to sustain an illusion of reality in order to keep the experience there as such difficult and chaotic for the races who are interested in experiencing that kind of extreme situations, many times for the sole purpose of testing their courage and ability to solve and face serious problems. With information recently provided by Yaskis-Varu, she explains in detail that a large number of non-human beings entering Earth to experience being a human do so with the sole purpose of forgetting. This for personal purposes of overcoming their traumatic situations, or a myriad of other reasons, since it is known what forms and defines a person is what they remember, giving them an identity or a sensation concept of me. This both with conscious and unconscious memories alike, but with a personal tint or degree in each case. As Yaskis-Varu continues to explain, although many people on Earth take the veil of forgetfulness as a curse, it is there for a specific reason, which is to forget for some incarnations who they are or who they have been elsewhere. Because then the human identity is regarded during an intense, chaotic, and short incarnation. The degree of forgetting is specific to each person and is not uniform. This by design of the very same person, coupled with factors of the very forgetting system that in itself is not complicated. It is simply an incompatibility of frequencies with a connection of the whole soul to what many call original source, because a soul is connected to other souls, and these to all in an etheric way, being that in the end we are literally all one person, the all. So the natural low energies of the earth and the experience of being on the earth, energies created and sustained by the same people who live in it, using a collective unconscious that creates a dominant frequency. It becomes incompatible with that of the all, with the source, one being very low and the other very high, creating a significant but never total disparity between the point of attention of a person living a human experience and the signal of the source, for lack of a better word, thus creating a veil of forgetfulness in a natural and easy way without technological instruments. It is argued that Earth is a prison planet. I understand how or where that concept comes from, and I understand that from the surface that is a perception, and I do not invalidate it. But from above, everyone enters and everyone returns to their places, races, species that they are, and they only enter or return to have another experience on a voluntary basis. However, yes, there is an element of addiction to the system on the part of many souls. The Van Allen bands help maintain the illusion and keep the most daring humans on the planet who try to explore life from the perspective of being human. But in itself, they do not represent or are not the real cause of the 3D matrix that in reality is created as a result of the average level of ideas and thoughts that humans hold as a collective unconscious. So it is only a natural and inevitable process that the inhabitants of any non-human species, race, or culture, when entering the earth, import or introduce concepts, customs, technology, art, fashions, and everything else, being that, as I have explained above, the veil of forgetfulness is never total or complete. This has been going on since the beginning of time, and something important to note here is that their customs, fashions, concepts, art, and everything else that defines a civilization on Earth will be directly affected, directed, and influenced depending on the type of non-human races playing being human at one point or another in Earth history. So the customs during some period of time on Earth, for example, Middle Ages or Renaissance, will result directly as a cause of the average interests and customs of the races playing being human beings, being that today it is more dominated by species with human form. So basically any concept that can be taken as exclusive of human invention from the point of view from within the game it is, but from the point of view of non-human races, it is just a soup of ideas, concepts, technology, art, and everything else that is shared between various non-human cultures in space. So, at any point in history, there has always been a strong crossover of influence between star races with humans, who themselves are not considered species, but a non-uniform mix of countless non-humans. Crossing or cultural influence from the Earth outwards and from the outside towards the Earth is not only common, but has always been there since the beginning of time, and it is inevitable, which explains vast cultural wealth of the peoples of the Earth. But it also happens that many of the customs that a human observer may see in us as human customs are actually customs widely dispersed among the population of human-like races. And the simple curiosity to know more about the planet that one is visiting and studying will cause the crews of ships in orbit to temporarily take on human ideas that they find interesting too. This can also be seen on Earth as something normal when a person from the Western world goes to visit some exotic place like India temporarily. While visiting there, he or she will adopt certain customs, fashions, and behaviors according to the place where they are. And upon return, they will most likely return to their own winds when leaving the place, or, like in our case, the planetary system that was visited.
like bicycles.
Like cakes, bicycles, shoes with lights, music, dancing.
You have clarified many doubts. Thank you.
That's what I wanted.